Welcome back to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates. Well, viewers, we are continuing our discussions this morning as it relates to crime. But I know it's a bit of a heavy topic. Unfortunately, it is something that we need to keep on having it within our space as we continue to grapple with what's been happening. Now, we have joining us on set none other than Minority Leader Kelvon. Good morning and welcome to you, sir. How are you doing?
Hi, good morning, Kandace. Good morning, Tobago, Trinidad and Tobago. Well, I'm quite well. I'm getting ready for our Mother's Day weekend celebration. And of course, Mother's Day is also in my district, Whim Harvest.
Nice.
So a lot to look forward to this weekend.
Certainly. Now, unfortunately, we have to kind of step away from the celebrations and the happy times that are going to be happening this weekend and focus on what's a bit of a darkness happening in Tobago, and that has to do with crime. Now, you had some things to say in the last couple of days about your views on the announcements made by ACP Collis Hazel, as well as Chief Secretary Fali Augustine, in regards to what they can do in the short term to address crime. So I would just like to give you the little opportunity right now, just comment on some of those things, especially where the stop and search is concerned.
Well, of course, as a law-abiding citizen and a Tobagonian, we are all concerned about the level of criminality on island and the murder rate at this time. In fact, it is at 6, and when I looked at the previous 5 years or so, it is at the highest at this point in time, and therefore we are very concerned. We commend the police and all the security forces for the kind of level of security that they provide. We know that it is not easy. They are putting their lives on the line for others, and therefore that kind of service is something that is always welcome and appreciated. When we looked at the stop and search of Mr. Hazel, I am saying we welcome anything that is within the law, and that would bring some kind of reprieve to us here in Tobago and give us some sense of comfort. My challenge, however, is that crime is not an isolated kind of thing. It requires a holistic, comprehensive kind of approach. So therefore, policing is important, but at the same time, there are the social interventions that must happen at the same time. And I recognize this administration has not really talked about the cause. So they're thinking about the actions to prevent crime. But what about those things that really cause people to go towards a life of crime? And we are talking things like employment. When you look at Tobago right now and you talk to young people, you're a young person yourself, Kandace, you know the kind of frustration that is in the system, both the academic persons who would have gone out, studied, come back, want to contribute. They're frustrated because there's limited opportunities for them. And then you have those young people in the system who would have come out from high school, looking for something to do. And they too are very, very frustrated because the employment opportunities just aren't coming as it should. We know right now the THA cannot employ everyone. But what the THA can do is create the enabling environment so that we can have a booming private sector. And through that, we can create industries, and the industries would be able to take up some of the slack in terms of employment, but that isn't happening at this time.
What do you think is some of the first steps towards creating that enabling environment for increased employment on the island?
Well, we have to look at some of the actions that were taken by this administration in the first place. The first thing this administration did, which I found unfortunate, was to label some Tobagonians as political hires. And in labeling them political hires, they immediately fired over 200 persons. And thereafter, we saw the issues with the contractors, where you had Tobago-based contractors employing over 1,200 young people in Tobago. And those contractors, one, they had outstanding payments. Those payments, as far as I understand, have not been fully honored. And more than that, they were also blacklisted, so they too weren't able to get jobs. And you know what happened? They had to lay off those workers. So you're talking about over 1,200 young people going back to the blocks, idled without anything. And the thing about crime as well is,
So wait, I'm trying to understand you correctly. Are you saying that those people that lost employment opportunity, those are the exact same
no,
people that
no,
are
I'm not,
contributing to the
no,
crime?
I'm saying, but if you have 1,200 idle persons out there, I mean, and needing to provide for their families and all those things are what drives crime. I continue to say, being someone who studied sociology, crime is a social problem, and it is because of social ills and social challenges that if you look at the statistics, whenever employment is low, you tend to have a lower crime rate. When you have high unemployment, you have an increase in crime, and this is what we are seeing. So I'm not saying it's those same person, but I'm saying it creates the environment for persons. So rather than create productivity, you create productivity in crime rather than productivity in the economy, because these people don't have much other option. And it is very easy for elements within the system and the society to basically pounce on that opportunity of these vulnerable young people. When I look, and we are talking now about what can be done,
Yes.
because we identify now some of the issues. I'm saying this administration has to take responsibility and have to own up that some of the actions perhaps could have contributed to some of the challenges, but all is not lost. Therefore, I was quite disappointed when I saw the press briefing and all we had there was simply the security forces. I'm asking myself, where is the community intervention? Where are our community groups, our church-based groups, our sport-based organizations, our NGOs dealing with women and children and at-risk families and all that? Because what you really need is a holistic approach. You need an approach that is all-inclusive, all-embracing, all of society. I've consistently said to this administration that, I am not so much focused on trying to knock you for whatever issues happening with crime. I'm here to work with you. I'm here to provide whatever little assistance that can be had, because crime is all of our problem. When someone from a village, when you hear someone from a village either got shot or so, it is the entire village that feels the pain.
But Mr. Morris, in a situation like that, I mean, after what happened the weekend last week, I mean, I guess one of the first moves would be, let's see what we can do with our protective forces, our security forces, before you extend that conversation. Now, we have been seeing throughout the communities, yes, an increase in like sporting activities and that focus on village sports and so on. I mean, there's always room for more, but at least that there is something happening.
Let me, and you see, experience is your greatest teacher. I can tell you, there was a time in my own village, Whim, where there was an upsurge in gun violence and that kind of thing sometime around 2012, 2013. And the PNM administration back in that time, yes, we had the increased police presence and all that, but we also recognized that at the same time, you had to have the social intervention, because one cannot happen without the other. And therefore, while that was happening, the extra policing, visibility and all that, we started to ensure that, one, we look at the root cause. One of it was employment. There were too many young persons unemployed with little to do, and therefore the opportunity for crime presented itself. And we went on a drive where we were able to get persons employed, whether it was URP, CPEP, daily paid, and also worked with the private sector as well to matriculate some of these young men into the private sector. We did some training. It is why we have this building at Backhill Junction for today that we are now looking. I think it should be open very soon, which is a training center, because we recognize that too needed to happen. And I'm saying we also looked at different things such as sport and culture. I remember we had the Save Night Football, Sport Against Violence. And what we did is create the whole community spirit. So you had persons coming out who selling pie, who selling punch, and that kind of thing. And it created and you saw over time a decrease, a steady decrease in that kind of activity happening in the village.
Now, another thing that came out at the press conference on Wednesday was the information that we're seeing more gangs being established in Tobago, but they're not Tobago authentic gangs. They are arms of gangs that are in Trinidad, and there is that connection with what is happening on the national scale. So then, at this point, then how much what should central government be doing at this point in time? Is this crime, because you're saying also that the crime situation is a reflection of just some of the things that the THA is not doing. So how much is the national crime situation a reflection of what the government is not doing?
And Kandace, I'm happy you brought that up, and that is why the Chief Secretary telling the Prime Minister to mind your blank business was such an unfortunate statement, because at the end of the day, we remain Trinidad and Tobago, and therefore the challenges of Trinidad will affect Tobago and vice versa. In fact, if you look at the very THA Act, the THA really and truly, in a real sense, it says 26(1) says that there are some matters for which the THA does not have direct responsibility, one of it being national security. So it therefore means that you must always have that kind of collaboration, that cohesion. And that's why I am wondering at this time whether the Chief Secretary at any point within those conversations reached out to his colleague in Trinidad, which is the Minister of National Security, as to ensure that we have this synergy and ensure that even the Commissioner
Even though the Minister of National Security said that it's not his job to form a crime plan and he's leaving that to the police?
Right. So the thing about it, there's difference between crime plan and having the resources to treat with crime, right? And therefore, remember, you have the Commissioner of Police, the Chief of Defense Staff, right?
Yeah.
And so these people report to the Minister of National Security, and of course, they would have a comprehensive kind of arrangement. And you, as the Chief Secretary of Tobago, you do have a responsibility to respond to the Tobago challenges. And therefore, you would think, and I think we can achieve even more when we work together, when we see Trinidad and Tobago as one country, two islands, but one country, and then we treat with our problems collectively rather than in isolation. Because as you rightfully point out, many of the gangs that we are seeing rising up in Tobago is because they in Trinidad recognize their opportunities in Tobago, and they are migrating, and they're infiltrating our homes, they're infiltrating our villages, and they're infiltrating our communities. And it therefore means that you really require all of government, all hands on deck, because the borders, to protect the borders, you really need the resources of the complete national security apparatus.
So if I understand you correctly, and we're unfortunately out of time, I mean, the conversation that happened on Wednesday, even though they were not the direct heads, but there were people also assigned, from my information, there were people assigned to, meet with the Chief Secretary, that those were the people that the Chief Secretary should not have met with.
No, understand me. I'm saying, had I in a situation like that, and the PNM's approach would have been one where we get all the players around the table. So you have the Tobago heads, of course, because we want to have the Tobago-centric approach. But you also get the heads from Trinidad as well, so that we all can be on the same page. And the resource, because we know the THA does not have all the resources to do what is required to do, even to get more police officers, because we heard the Chief Secretary complain that there's a shortage.
That was something that came from the police as well.
Right, but I'm saying, who makes that decision? It's the Commissioner of Police. And it would make sense if you're having a meeting to treat with a comprehensive plan. All I'm saying is that it would have made sense to have everyone at the table at the same time, and then you decentralize who is responsible for what and that kind of thing.
All right. Well, Mr. Morris, unfortunately, we have to leave it there because we are
and I didn't get to talk about my harvest football tournament at all.
Oh, my goodness.
So make sure people come out tomorrow. Bring your team to Swamp Community Center, 4:30 p.m. Whim Harvest Community Cup, $5,000, winners take all. And this is also part of the crime prevention method, because I'm saying sport and culture is one of the most powerful tools to escape poverty and crime.
Certainly.
Yes.
All right, viewers, unfortunately, we have to go to a break now, but when we come back, we have a lot more for you on the program.